Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Dave Veldkamp, and I am on the board of Great Lake Urban. Great Lakes Urban strengthens neighborhoods in the cities of Holland, Grand Rapids, and several other regions of West Michigan. And we are here today to share stories and insights about the power of community connecting through asset-based community development. Now, I am privileged to be involved in a local community listening group called Godfrey Lee Listeners. And you will hear from some of the participants today from the Godfrey Lee neighborhood, sharing stories and insights about the power of community connecting, through asset-based community development. Being connected to each other and working together, we have all the capacities we need to achieve what we dream. So I also want to introduce Eric Smith, our executive director, and he will be moderating our discussion today. It's all yours, Eric.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction, Dave. And thank you also to our our participants for today, our panelists, and to the Great Lakes Urban Board as well for their involvement. We do have a poll that's up, so feel free to answer that question. How well do you know your neighbors? And you could answer, there's 4 different options. We'll get the results here in a second. While you're filling in that poll, I'd like to make mention of a few things. This is going to be a discussion with our panelists, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves in a little bit. But to make this feel like a discussion that we can all learn from, including myself, it feels great if you can, if you go to the view box to the top right of your screen and you click on the gallery view. That way you can see all the panelists at the same time. Also, I want to note, we have had some questions that have come in ahead of time, but through the course of this, you can also add your questions. We'll have a moderated portion of this, which will last for about 25 minutes or so, but then there'll be time at the end for you to ask your questions as an attendee. And to do that, at the bottom of your screen, there's an icon that says question and answer, so you can fill that in there. Or of course, if you're more familiar with the chat and that feels comfortable, put it in the chat. That's an option as well. The last thing I want to mention is you've heard already the term asset-based community development. Sometimes you'll hear it shortened to ABCD. So if you hear ABCD, you know that stands for asset-based community development. And I just want to make sure you're aware of what that means. So ABCDs are the methodology that we use at Great Lakes Urban and what we support. And that's a very ground-up, relationally based, and asset-centered, asset-focused, asset-founded framework for engaging and mobilizing citizens to step into and creating a better future for their neighborhoods and beyond and communities. So that's a little bit about ABCD. ABCD is also very place-based. And so I want to introduce right now that we are meeting today. We have the joy of meeting with panelists from Wyoming, Michigan. And panelists, I'm going to turn to you and you can introduce yourself and your role with Great Lakes Urban and also with the Godfrey Lee neighborhood. So tell us a little bit about yourself in a couple minutes each, if you would now. And why don't we begin with you, Susan? And make sure to unmute yourself when you're speaking.
All right. My name is Susan Van Bronckhorst, and I'm a member. I'm a resident here in Godfrey Lee neighborhood. My husband and I moved here some years ago when our adult children were buying houses in this neighborhood, so we did too, so we could be by our kids. And I was initially brought into this group by the previous community connector. Lauren was here in our neighborhood, and she came to my house one day and she said, well, those are the famous 4 questions. What do you like about the neighborhood? And then went on to ask me what I might dream for making our neighborhood better. So I told her what I would really like is to see more trees in our neighborhood. I had learned about the value of a tree canopy and I knew that Wyoming was missing a lot of trees, especially in our neighborhood. Some years ago, all the trees were cut down along the street. I have grandchildren. I like to walk to the park, pushing my kids in a stroller, and there were not many places with shade. So that's what I wanted, trees. I said, Lauren, I'd like trees in our neighborhood. And she said, that sounds like a good goal. She found other people in our neighborhood who were also interested in trees, and she got us together. It was so empowering when we could be as a group to do something good for our neighborhood. I had had the idea before, but I never acted on it until I was with other people who had the same desire. And so that's how I started being a part of this neighborhood association.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Susan. Mayor Pohl, would you be willing to take minutes and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jack Paul. I've had the privilege now to be in my 12th year as the mayor of the city of Wyoming and my 20th year as an elected official in the city of Wyoming. It's always been a very diverse community. I was born and raised in the Godfrey Lee School District, and cherish a lot of memories from the wonderful area that represents. Obviously, from the years when I have been there to today, it has changed considerably. Diversity across the city of Wyoming has really changed. And as a city leader and as those that work for the city, it's been a constant desire of us to bring neighborhoods together, to build neighborhoods, because when we see neighborhoods, we see safety. And safety is always our biggest concern of anything in the city of Wyoming and many municipalities. So we're excited for the work that's going on in the Godfrey Lee neighborhood. Doris is a wonderful advocate for that community. And as we continue to work from our side in trying to do things, what we really need is to be able to get people participating and coming back. We can set up things to do, we can promote things, but we really need participation. And I think this will really lead to stronger neighborhoods and stronger communication.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor. And so let's turn now. You got a good glowing recommendation there, Doris. And so we'll just turn to you now.
Well, thank
Introduce
you so
yourself and-
much. Yeah, my name is Doris Perez. I am actually from Dominican Republic, but I did my bachelor in Michigan when I was a teenager, and then went back to Dominican Republic. I am a social worker, and I did a lot of community development back home for 30 years. So it was a different community development. It was focused on the traditional community development. So when I came to Lee Street Church as a member, and I heard about this team, this group was meeting. We were not Godfrey Lee listeners yet. We were just a group of people meeting, and I joined the group. And then later I learned that they were looking for a community connector. And I really say I would like to give it a try because I really like the description. So I've been doing the community connection for over 2 years. And I just love the concept of ABCD because we focus on the good things that are in the community, all the treasures that are in the community, so we could use it for the better of our neighborhood. So I'm really happy we became Godfrey listeners as we gave ourselves a name. We have our organizational capacity structure, and we're working together as a team to accomplish many goals.
That's wonderful. And for those who may not know Doris personally, she lives that connected life already. I just oozes from who she is, and we appreciate Doris so much. So Doris, we know that you support so many people in the neighborhood and you're building community relationships. I wonder if you could talk about, one group or one relationship or one activity that brings this particular meaning to you.
Yeah, besides, I started just going around and getting to know neighbors and getting to know business people and organizations. But it's been great to get into gardening project that it was started by UCOM, the one of the organizations in the neighborhood, and just trying to find out who likes gardening and who wants to do some gardening with us. I got to meet many families that were farmers in Mexico or Guatemala, and then I didn't know how to plant. I didn't know how to plant anything because I'm a city girl, but I learned from them and got excited about doing gardening. And then this year specifically, we decided to have a walking club as well. We do gardening and we do a walking club where we every Wednesday go and walk together. So after walking together, I have found beautiful ladies that usually their husband work full time or sometimes more than full time. And we get together and start saying, let's go cook together or let's go and do this together. So we have a fellowship every Wednesday and it's been growing. More ladies have been being added to it. And we share our stories. We share where we come from, our struggles. Some of them feel like they want to say what kind of load is going on with their kids, with their families. But also we share our strengths, our gifts. So some of them that know how to do things good, they share their abilities, and then we do things together. And then also the great thing about that is that everybody knows somebody else in the neighborhood. So each one of these ladies are introducing different neighbors to me. Oh, this is my neighbor, she's a widow, she's lonely. Oh, this is my neighbor, she has the desire to learn. We go and do sometimes a card project in a place that we can do crafting and cards. So we find things to do together. We find what is good in the neighborhood and try to take advantage with the things that we can do together.
I'm curious, in that group, and I think it's like 40 strong now or so that's doing that, but do you have if we drill down on this, maybe there's someone in the group that you could share, like how has being a part of the group benefited them or vice versa, or how they benefited the group?
Yeah. Well, I can say one day, one of our ladies was so sad. She was crying. She said, I just went to the doctor. The doctor said that I have cancer. She told me, but then she told others too. And we encouraged her to eat well. I remember each one of us started to bring her healthy foods, eat this vegetable, eat this fruit, and come to her house to. One day we took her out to get a haircut to encourage her. So we find ways to encourage that person and find ways that she smile, that don't worry, everything's we pray for her as well. She had a strong faith. And then one interesting thing that happened is that we have you talked to another doctor for a second opinion? So we encourage her to also go and get another, opinion on her situation. And one day she came so happily to tell us, the specialist said that this is not cancer what I got, it's another thing. And so, her life sort of changed so bright, and then we say, wow, we were rejoicing with one another. And we are encouraging ourselves as well to find somebody that has a need in the community. So sometimes we find somebody that is needing a bed or is needing some specific ride because they don't have cars. Most of these ladies don't have cars. So we find someone that is available to take them to the doctor or to take them to the supermarket. Or sometimes we just get together and decide, oh, let's go in and go to New Beginning restaurant and eat breakfast together. So we talk about so many things, and we're even thinking about organizing our group in the community and reaching out to other ladies. They volunteer as well whenever I need to go door to door. They say, I'm willing to go with you. So it's been like a companionship. And more, they're feeling that isolation and sadness has gone away. All of them have been doing gardening as well. So we sort of make a team of women that are developing and are enjoying one another.
Dolores, maybe you can have one of those nice young ladies bring me a nice red tomato someday. I love
Oh, yeah,
tomatoes.
I have tons of red tomatoes in my garden.
Okay,
So we'll bring you some. I'll gather
Okay.
a few.
okay.
Yeah,
That is wonderful.
excellent.
Those great stories. And, you know, so there's something that happens with when life is shared together, right? That's just really powerful.
Oh, yeah.
On so many levels. We break through the isolation, and then there's also this quality of life impacts, right? So there's
yeah.
more security in Godfrey Lee neighborhood, and now in Mayor Pohl's house with the tomatoes, there's more food security.
Yeah.
Working together.
Yeah. That sounds great. You know, I remember in the month of May, I was going to travel and I needed a suitcase that was bigger than my small one. And they just went to Goodwill, all of them, you know, trying to see, you know, when they have suitcases, oh, I found a suitcase for you. So it was so exciting to get a suitcase from one of these ladies. It didn't cost anything because, you know, it was very small what they pay, but it's just sharing our needs all together.
That's right. That's wonderful. And just to make clear to those watching, I mean, this is one group that Doris is working with and cultivating out of several kinds of activities and collaborations. And so, Susan, I kind of want to turn to you for a minute. This kind of connecting work doesn't happen in isolation, right? I mean, it doesn't happen on its own necessarily in most cases. There has to be some intentionality involved. And we've heard mention the word, the organization Godfrey Lee Listeners, but it feels like that's what's the infrastructure that's supporting all this work to happen. And so I wanted to turn to you because I know that you're on the board. And would you be willing to share what Godfrey Lee Listeners is and what you do?
Sure. So I said that I had met the previous connector, Lauren, several years ago when I was first getting involved, and we were working with the Tree Amigos, the Wyoming Tree Commission, to get trees planted in our neighborhood. And then Lauren said to me at one point, would you be willing to be part of a group of neighbors who would kind of help me with this community connecting and with the asset-based community development? So she introduced me to the concept, but I said, sure, I'd be a part of this group. And she gathered the group together. We decided as a group to be called the Godfrey Lee Listeners because we had learned some of the principles at that point of ABCD. And we learned that our primary focus or our goal should be to listen to each other, to find out what we like about where we live and what we might dream to do together to make it better. And so that's why we chose the title, the name of our group. Godfrey Lee is the name of our neighborhood. Listeners is the name of what we called ourselves because we wanted to listen to people, not to come from outside and tell our neighborhood what we need, but to listen to what people want. So I became the secretary of the group. We have monthly meetings with Doris. She tells us what she's been doing, and we together try to help her, sometimes to help her with some of the connections she wants to make. To some of us go door to door with her once in a while. She runs ideas past us. We try to encourage her. She's such an amazing person in our neighborhood because we have so many Spanish speaking people and English speaking people, and she can speak well with all of us. So that's a really great thing. Community building is a slow process.
Mhm.
Something that Doris said at our last meeting is that people that initially she had contact with and were a little bit not ready to get on board have become much more enthusiastic about what she's doing. They maybe, I don't want to say we're suspicious, but at this point she has built trust with a lot of people. And now that they know her, they're willing to participate more in our neighborhood and what we're doing. So, I mean, even the process of doing the trees, we have had limited success with that. I wish that we could do the same thing all over the neighborhood, 100 times over, 1,000 times over. But we know it's slow, and if we keep working together, we can accomplish things.
Yeah.
That's great. I love there's sort of a couple of important factors there. It sounds like when you're doing community building or neighborhood building, I mean, it's you do have to have some level of infrastructure, neighbors coming together as a group to say, we will do this work of listening and then mobilizing. But I'm also hearing time is the other key factor, and that there's a trajectory to this, and
Yes.
sometimes it's a long one. And yet, if it's rooted in the neighborhood, it's sustainable, right? So it can live on, have a life long into the future. So Susan, I want to follow up on that and just say, with that, because you have been involved for years now, have you seen a difference in the neighborhood from where it was pre God-Freely listeners, or what are the early iterations of that to the neighborhood as you know it now?
Well, we do have a few more trees,
Yeah.
a little shade when I walk to the park. In many ways, I would say what I've seen is a difference in my own attitude. Previously, I was a person who liked to connect with my family. I would reach out to my family. I would reach out to people at my church, the people at my job. But it didn't really occur to me that the spot where I live on this earth is a very important is a very important place for me to reach out, get to know people, and to connect with the people who live across the street, next to me, on either side. And that's something that I have personally learned through being a part of God-Freely listeners. Our coach, Javen Groningen, comes every month with more stories about how positive it can be to get to know people who live right by you. And, it's so uncommon. I mean, it's so common that people don't even know the names of the people around them. And so personally, I've been encouraged to reach out, and, it's slow, but I'm pleased that I can be a part of this.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, that change in awareness and so forth. I just love that. And so, Mayor Paul, I wonder if we could come to you now, having heard these stories and what's happening in the neighborhood. How do you see what's happening in God-Freely neighborhood? How does that connect to your larger vision for the community as a whole?
Thank you. When I hear the stories and the talk, that aligns exactly directly with the city of Wyoming. We have constantly worked out trying to work in neighborhoods. We have police officers in all our schools every day, working with individuals to make sure that when a police officer arrives on a scene, that the individuals can be comfortable with them, and that it's not, they're just human beings like they are, and want for the betterment of the community, and not every time they see a police officer that it's because there's been some type of infraction. And so we've had great established that. We hope to expand that in the next year. We're looking to hire some 14 more police officers dedicated directly to that, to get into the neighborhoods, to get to know people in the neighborhoods. Obviously, the better that they're known, the less fear there are as police officers, and respect that goes both ways. We will see improved safety in the neighborhoods, which is always as I mentioned, our #1 goal. Also in the city, we're really working hard. We've in the last year with a kind of a term called cultural competency. We've had speakers come in from Florida just in the last month. Doris and Dave were part of that, and as well as we're really excited about our 2 new pastors that are right in our community at Lee Street Christian Reformed Church that are both bilingual. And I believe that they just have a real mission to get out and connect that community. And I can see probably like never before is there going to be some excitement in that neighborhood, building, bonding, and certainly in that neighborhood is some of the areas where we see more crime than other areas in our city. And I just believe that through the work of Doris, getting to know individuals, the idea when they get some more police officers in that, just going door to door. The kids, the other night I was on the way to church and I stopped the car alongside of the street and some kids were playing basketball, and I says, let the mayor have a couple of shots. And they thought that was just quite the ticket to think that the mayor would stop and take a couple of shots with their basketball in the middle of the street. And it's just getting out to know people. My whole time as mayor, my mantra has been at the end of everything I send out as far as letters, communication, and at end of every meeting for the last 12 years, I say to the community, please be involved and be informed. And those things are just so key to make neighborhoods better. If they're involved in the neighborhood and they're informed what's going on, it's not picking up the little details here when there's something that goes wrong, but really being involved and knowing what is really happening in the neighborhoods. And so I think that's really, we really excited about, it was always, I think 20 years ago when I became involved, it was a little like, how do we do this? We're so diverse. But over the years now, we have really come to accept and to really love that diversity. And we just reach out constantly. But like it is, it's a time to build trust. And I hope over the time that I've been mayor, we've been able to build some trust that people will understand that it's not some big palace or something. I'm the very same. I own a home on a street, just like the folks in the Godfrey Lee neighborhood own a home on the street. The only thing I did was get a few votes and became mayor of the city, but each and every one of them too, with very limited qualifications, can, as far as age and things like that, can become a member of council. And there's so many committees that we have that just today do not represent the percentage of people. We have 25% that are Hispanic people in our community, in our city. And our city doesn't look like that. When you look at the boards and commissions, you don't see 25%. So we need the involvement of this Godfrey Lee neighborhood. And I think as we, join together and build that trust, I trust that we'll get more and more individuals involved.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And first, one thing that comes to my mind is now Doris is officially, her title is connector, but in fact, everybody can play that role. When you're getting out of your car and shooting a couple hoops, you are being a connector, and I just love that that connecting role. Anyone can play that, right? So, but speaking of Doris, we'll come back to you. Doris, I have a question. So, Mayor Paul has dreams for the city of Wyoming, and I think you, as a connector, a big part of your role is to listen for what's that collective imagination, what's that dream that's coming up in people's minds and hearts. I wonder if you'd share a little bit about in the Godfrey Lee neighborhood, what are some of the dreams that are coming up? What have you been hearing?
Oh yeah, it's exciting, you know, every time you go treasure hunting, you find that every person has a different view of the neighborhood and he have a different gifts and probably has different dreams as well. We gather a few dreams, like we ask, what do you, if you had a magic wand, what would you change in the neighborhood? What thing would excite you in the neighborhood? So we have heard people saying, well, we want to have um, a neighborhood that people are more friendly, collaborate with each other. We want to see our neighborhood prettier. You know, Chicago Drive is a big issue. People like to say that we would love to have Chicago Drive cleaned up with lightning, with flowers, with sidewalks that look nice, you know. And that's one of the, we don't want violence in the neighborhood. So we dream with a violence-free neighborhood. Safety is a big issue that people have said. We want a safer neighborhood. We want neighbors to get together and care for one another, even in small things, you know. Sometimes one lady, 96 years old, shared her dreams. She said, you know, when we were like 80 years ago, we gathered together outside after, you know, in the summer to just share our meals or share our experiences. I hope it comes back again, you know, the neighbors get to know each other. So some people are saying, I dream that we become a community that is willing to find out what is the need of the next door neighbor, and that we can collaborate with each other. If somebody that is old needs the dog to be walked, you know, small things, you know, or just going on vacation and need somebody to water the plants. So that caring experience is really wanted from everybody, saying we want it to be a friendly, I want this neighborhood to be friendly, more safe, more caring, more engaged in, and that's our vision, you know, as Godfrey listeners, to have neighbors so engaged like that. Some of the dreams somebody said was like, we want to have more cultural experience in Chicago Drive. You know, like if we make it really beautiful, we could have gathering. We can have, some people have talked about fresh markets, you know, on the street, some music somehow being played, you know, so people can see that there's a joyful community. Also, when we talk about safety and caring, is like all neighbors are watching for security. Is not necessarily having more police, even though it helps, but also have more and more neighbors concerned about caring for a suspicious person, taking care of the next door neighbor or the front neighbor, that everything is all right, or just writing down, you know, in the next door um, common sharing of the neighborhood. So there are so many, they want, for example, school kids would love to have more clubs, you know, where they can do sports. Some kids have talked about that, you know, in more waste basket place, you know, like where to deposit the trash for dogs. And so we want the neighborhood to look good, you know, more green places with trees, places with flowers, homes that are painted. They would love business that are, you know, their business don't look very nice. We wish that they they would paint that, so it looks like we are alive, like we are a happy neighborhood. So there are so many, everybody has a different opinion on how to make things better. Slow the traffic is one of the dreams, in Chicago Drive, that those trucks don't go, so far. Safety in the crossing the kids to go to school, and just opportunities for learning, cultural opportunities, like doing things together as youth are, I think they are the best potential we have, because they're strong, and they also, we have a project, a future project of working with youth so they can learn about the principles of being good neighbors and helping one another. So those dreams to find out who are the people that have these talents that we need to put them into practice. Sometimes we have to start with small things, like just walking together, gardening together, sharing books together. There's several libraries, small libraries in the neighborhood, and seeing what the other neighbor needs, how can I be useful for my next door neighbor, or the neighbor that I know that is sick, cooking a meal for somebody that doesn't have the strength to have a meal. And using local businesses. I mean, our dream is that we support all our local businesses first, and that our local businesses treat us as they like us as being the ones that give them business. So there's a good relationship between the people and the business people, that we all belong to the same place. We all belong to this small God-friendly community that is wonderful, that we dream to be. We see it as the best neighborhood we could have.
Yes.
We want to compete with all the great neighborhoods.
No, just to add to what Doris said there, a couple of things that I picked up. One on is Chicago Drive. Chicago Drive is extremely high on our list at the City of Wyoming. There's a whole new way of building different type of homes and stuff along there. And the city is really looking into that to see where some of these homes that have now come into significant disrepair and stuff like that, to be changing that corridor and helping that to get some possible wide or narrowing of that street in that area in order to get some more green space along there. Another big thing that's going on right now is in the park that's in that neighborhood, Marquette Park. We're just now, in fact, it's going to be going on this fall, is we're getting the neighborhood groups together and saying, what do you want in that park? It's a process that begins it, and we get it drawn out. Then we have to wait till funds are available. But if it's not there, it never gets done. But certainly at that point, I was just in the park. We have a thing called Council on the Road in the summertime, and we spend 3 of our council meetings going to different areas of the city in neighborhoods. And one was in Marquette Park in August, and I had the opportunity. I used to play baseball on those fields all the time, and just don't get over there as often. And I was really surprised the vastness of that park, because they removed some things, and once equipment starts failing and swing sets start failing, we can't just repair them anymore, because a lot of them don't meet the current standards of today. So they end up getting removed, and you start removing and removing. But we are totally interested in the last 3 or 4 parks that we've done have been completely designed by the people in the neighborhood. What do you want in your neighborhood? Is it splash pads? Is it a large area for trees? What is exactly ball fields? What do you want? And it's just prime right now as the time that we're starting that process on Marquette Park. And we do that in segments too. So it might be we put in the splash pad in a year, and 2 years later we add something else, but we have a process set up for that. So there's great things going to happen over there. And
Yeah.
we just need involvement in the community, because otherwise it's somebody that doesn't live there or somebody from City Hall making decisions on what folks want in their neighborhood. And we want to do what you want in your neighborhood.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like that's just wonderful. And we do have a lot of questions that have popped into the chat. So I do want to get to those. And if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to add those. So we'll get to those here in just a second. We'll also get to the results of our poll from the beginning, because those illustrate a point that it's so important that each of us is a connector right where we live, right? Right on our neighborhood. And in fact, if you can see those, see, how well do you know your neighbors? And 27% said we're very close. 45% I said I know their name. 18% said I've met one or two, and 9% said I don't know them at all. So this is a great and well-connected group that's here participating today, and just love to see those kinds of results.
Especially welcome to you, 9%. We're glad you learned
Yes.
about the wonderful city of Wyoming a little bit more today.
Yes, absolutely. And magic really does happen. I just loved hearing of that little dream section, right? Because that really gets to the heart of this. When we dream and we've named it, and we have a place we're going toward,
Yeah.
and we know all the assets of the city, or the park space that's there, or whatever it is, but we know what those assets are to build on. There's so much that can happen. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
So we're going to move to some questions, and then we'll wrap up our session today soon with, I'm going to have a speed round, and I'm going to ask each of our panelists, I'm not warning you now, why should someone get involved in this kind of larger movement of neighboring, if you will, this larger movement that Lou is trying to push forward in our country, in West Michigan. So let's get to some questions. Let's see. First one here says, I'm very interested in what you are describing. I wonder if the local city knows about and understands what you're trying to do. Can a city support you in a doable way? So I'll turn that first to Doris.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in partnership with the Wyoming City Hall people, especially the community development specialists, and we have shared everything we're doing and getting feedback from them, getting advice from Rebecca Rembrandt and the mayor and other people. And so, yes, we are looking for opportunities to whatever like the Three Amigos project. We're trying to encourage people, to know the advantages of having a tree. And then, it's like a two ways, not only with the city, the officials, but also with other organizations, because the assets in the community are not just the Wyoming City Hall. It's everyone. Everyone is an asset. Everyone who lives in the community and has potential and has something to give is an asset. So we can come together, whatever idea we can get from the Wyoming City Council, we have to join it. We have to embrace it. So there are many churches with ideas and with dreams as well. So we're trying to discover that. It's like every day discovering who is who has this talent, who has this desire, and then let's get together. Let's believe that we can do it. I mean, we don't have to wait until there's a big project coming. We can come with small things. And now that we know that the city is going to focus on the park, let's go and say, what can I do with my hands to help the park to look better? What can I bring? Can I bring, if there's flowers, can I plant a flower? Can I volunteer to pick up trash? There are many neighbors that go every Saturday walking and just picking up trash. So can I let the police know that there's somebody suspicious or whatever. We have to sort of be together. We're trying to implement some block connectors, some people that care for their block. So we can divide the city into small little, neighbors that care for one another. So there are many, many ways where we can do partnership. We need to do partnership with the business people. There's an excellent example with one of the local supermarkets that is so willing to, hey, let me know, what can I do? I'm willing to do whatever you say. I'm willing to, if you need snack for your meetings, I'm available to just give some of that. So, we can all collaborate. That's the thing. We need to, that's our mission, to help neighbors to think how to collaborate with what good is going on. And if they have any idea, they can come to they can call, or many people have said to me, if you go to the city council, just let them know that we need lighting in this specific block. So I have shared that. I have gone there and say, hey, there's a neighbor that is concerned about more lighting in their spots. So we can communicate, have trust that they are gonna take care of what is our concern.
Yeah, I love it. It feels from this discussion, what I'm hearing, I think, is, not to take words from your mouth, Mayor Pohl, but you really value and engaged residents who can speak into that vision and the use of the assets that you bring. And at the same time, engaged neighborhoods need a strong partner in the city to make their dreams a reality. So that's wonderful. And anybody else can speak to that. We do have one more question.
I certainly can add a couple things to that.
Yeah, please.
Is that, we do have a couple of organizations, the Greater Wyoming Resource Alliance, that gives grants for different things. And I believe UCOM has been a recipient of money in our neighborhood, in the Godfrey Lee neighborhood previously. And we also have it's called WACO, WECO, which is Wyoming Employees Community Outreach, more based for individual needs of children. And they have supplied just a number of things. And if we get connected through Doris or anyone to that there's specific needs in specific homes, that's the type of things that we, as the employees who contribute to that weekly out of their paychecks, in order to build a better community. And the other thing, Doris, that I just want to mention to you is that, and I think we can really put an effort for this, and this will happen next spring. Every year in the city of Wyoming, we have what we call the community cleanup days. And we have a place set up in one of the larger churches over on 44th Street, where everybody can get rid of anything they don't want. And I think if we start that right after the first of the year, supporting that with your organization to get, as you walk the streets there are some folks that just leave trash everywhere, from junk cars to tires to this to that to old appliances. All that stuff can be brought free of charge. A few things there are some charges for, obviously, but most things are just to be able to get rid of that. And if we can organize, a lot of individuals don't have a truck in order to get to that site on that Saturday, that we can organize that together and go out, and I'll gladly be a part of that, picking up, helping to pick up that trash on that day and get the neighborhood cleaned up. We could get that neighborhood so cleaned up in a day at no cost to the neighbors, just the effort of getting it together.
Yes.
So that'll happen next spring. We do it annually in the spring. We didn't last spring, because the last 2 springs because of COVID. We did it in August of this year, and had some success. Usually in the spring, it's just monstrous. We have just we fill up 40, 50 of those large dumpsters, and haul that all the way at no cost to the citizens.
So Mayor, you mentioned COVID. That's another question that's been in here. I don't know, Susan, if you'd be willing to jump in and unmute yourself. And How have you seen through the pandemic, how have you seen this connecting work continue? And then I want to open up, there's a couple of how-to questions that I'd like to open the panel up for the panel. So those how-to questions are, kind of, okay, what's been your experience with the effective way to build trust in your neighborhood? And then how could I get started with a listening process or a listening group in my neighborhood? And how could I fund that? So a couple of how-to questions. But first, Susan, do you want to take a minute and share your experience in the neighborhood with the pandemic and how it's been different because of the group?
Well, we had a lot of conference call or Zoom call meetings when we got together with the Godfrey listeners. Because we couldn't meet in person, we met in people's backyards. Because we couldn't be inside of a building, we, just like with everything else, you have to adjust your meeting places and how you talk to each other. I think it was slow going for a while, and it just seemed like, oh, nothing's happening. And I think Jay was helpful, our coach, who said, it's okay. As long as you keep meeting, as long as Doris is still going out, you can't expect things to happen quickly during this time. And that was helpful to me when he said that. We have to just be patient with ourselves. And yeah, I would say during COVID, everything just kind of slowed down. And we have tried to just keep going. I think the whole thing has been a learning process for me. I have always been more of the type of person to see a need and fix it. I like to fix things. I like to do projects. I like to make it happen. And this process is not that sort of thing. It is a process of getting to know people, building trust. Doris is just great at this. She talks with people. She hears from so many people, and she's been so great at building trust with people, and also reaching out to so many people with the churches, the businesses, the neighbors, the schools. It's a huge task, and it sometimes feels overwhelming, and we feel like, wow, which direction shall we go? There's so many different ways we could proceed, but the process itself is the good thing that's happening, that people are actually involved in talking and getting to know people. And yeah, it's really a long-term, we have to have a long-term goal, because we can't expect to make, definite things happen right away. As long as we're moving forward, as long as we're talking together and have goals for making this neighborhood a place where nobody wants to leave, that's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
Oh yeah.
That forward momentum, the movement, right? You're on a trajectory, and that's so critical. Thank you. In a minute, Doris, do you want to address that how-to question, right? Of, how could someone get a listening team together for their own neighborhood? And how could they fund that work?
I have been discovering that already there's some homes, there's some neighbors that they gather already. On Fridays, I know a family that gathers every Wednesday just with their grandkids to talk about values, about their culture, and sharing a meal. We have every other week, I haven't said anything about our grilling experience. This summer we've been having every other week a grilling experience where we invite neighbors to come and eat hamburgers, hot dogs, and bring something. One of the best things is to do a gathering with food, and if the COVID allows us to. I want to say during the COVID, I didn't stop working. I used the phone, I used Zoom, I used I went to the neighbors and just stay outside and say, hey, I came to wave at you. And so, how are you doing? And I found a lot of solidarity. There were some churches that say, I have like 6 different gift cards that were given to me to give away. Could you find 6 families that really need this? And I went, I didn't go inside their homes, but I knew who have 9 kids, who is a person that had cancer person in their home. So we found out somebody needed a water heater. And I found a church that just bought everything for that person. She just needed an installation. And they said, no, we'll buy the whole thing. So somebody the other day needed a stroller for a child that came as a refugee. And we just found somebody say, oh, I have 2 strollers. It's like a way of what I have that I can share. How can we meet and I get to know one another. The other day in a back to school activity, I met somebody from Salvador, and she said, I love to work for the community. What can I do? How can I get to know you? Every experience I have in a walking experience, every Saturday I go walking with some people, and every time I meet new people, then we learn how to engage each one, connect them with one another. So there are many opportunities to listen.
Right, great. Thank you, Doris. And just briefly, there's an end of session poll as we come to the conclusion of this. So make sure you fill that out and we'll get results. If you posed a question and did not get a chance to get your question answered, just know that we'll do a follow-up after this session to try to address some of those as well. So there's an opportunity still to engage. With just a minute left here before the lunch hour closes and we wrap this up, I want to say a quick word about Great Lakes Urban, and then I want to turn it over to our panelists for just a 30-second pitch, or not pitch, but just what is it that you think, why should someone get involved in this mission of good neighboring as we try to expand this? I was really intrigued in this conversation, this discussion. Susan, for example, brought up J. Van Groningen as their coach a couple of times. And Doris, of course, and Great Lake, Godfrey Lee listeners receives financial support and that coaching support through the work of Great Lakes Urban. If you want to see more of this kind of work happening in neighborhoods and cities across West Michigan and now through our national network across the U.S., we just would invite you. And there's a link in our chat feed. You can go there. You can make a donation, and we will use that to provide the support to help, whether it's your neighborhood that you want to get started, or other neighborhoods, or certainly to support the Godfrey Lee neighborhood as well. So we definitely want to make that pitch that your support can make a difference. So with that, I want to open it up. If you've got 20 seconds and you want to share why you think someone should get involved, how people can benefit from being involved in a movement for good neighboring, please take it away.
Good. I'll just say a few things. First of all, I appreciate this opportunity. We are so aligned with this in the city. It's just getting us working together, and you knowing who to contact, and we knowing who to contact. And I'm really excited about the opportunity that's going to go on in Godfrey Lee neighborhood. And as I've always ended with, just be involved and be informed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank
Yes.
you, Susan.
I would like to say, all of our lives we've been told, love your neighbor as yourself. And this is one way to love your neighbor. First of all, get to know your neighbors. It's hard to love people you don't know. And so here is a way to do it, to get to know your neighbors and figure out how to love them.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
Doris, 10 seconds.
Well, yeah, 10 seconds. It's just listen to people, encourage them to volunteer. encourage them to become part of something great that we're building up in our neighborhood. We all can do it together, and we can go so far away if we believe in one another as important people.
Amen, Doris. Amen, sister.
Yes, that is wonderful. And what a great way to end this session. My deep gratitude to our panelists, Mayor Paul, Susan, Doris. Your time has been, we treasure your time and your insights today. Thank you so much. And again, we'll do a follow-up and we'll try to address any unanswered questions that we couldn't get to today. Deep gratitude to the Great Lakes Urban Board and to our large network of supporters to make stories like these possible. Thanks to all and have a great day.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.